Hi everyone, so welcome. Today we are highlighting 4 board games to use with children with autism. You may or may not have seen my original video. It's on the AutPlay YouTube page, 3 board games to use with children with autism. So now we're highlighting some more, actually 4 more board games that you can use with children with autism without really modifying the board game to make it more therapeutic, just playing it in its normal way to play it with its normal instructions and how it provides really good skill work for kids with autism. I'm a big fan of board games because I think kids like board games in general. Many kids respond positively to board games. They see board games and they see something that they're familiar with, that's comforting to them, that they like, that they associate with fun that they've had, with enjoyment before. So they're engaging and they like to play, which is great because if we can play a board game with them that they enjoy, and at the same time that board game provides some skill development, then that's just a bonus. We've got a great intervention activity we can do that kids enjoy doing, that you can have a fun time with the child doing, but you're also getting that benefit of working on some skills that you're really trying to increase in the child. So let's talk about these 4 board games. The first one is classic Chutes and Ladders. What a great game. This is actually one of my favorites to play with all kids, but especially with kids with autism because there's so much built into this game that are good learning components and pieces. The idea of you're on your path, what you think is going to happen suddenly changes. You know, you're making your way to the top and suddenly you are sliding all the way down to the bottom and you're having to regroup and figure out how to get back up to the top. Or you're going along and suddenly you're shooting straight up to the top. The change, the opportunity to experience this didn't go the way I thought it was going to go is so good for kids with autism. This happens in the game and it gives us an opportunity to talk about how that happens in their real life. And then how will they handle that? How will they react to that? They're going along, they've got a plan in mind, they've got a goal in mind, and then suddenly something happens and they're completely thrown off their course. This happens in the game. And of course, we know this happens in real life. So it's a great way to make that parallel to situations or possible situations that could happen where they're having to readjust. Something happened, this isn't what I maybe even wanted, but now I've got to readjust and get back on course. So when this happens in the game, I always try to take the opportunity to apply this to the real life. Wow, you know, if something like that ever happened in real life where you were going along and you thought you were making your way the way it was supposed to go, and then suddenly you get totally thrown off course. It's frustrating. And then how do you like get yourself focused again? You can really have some good discussions about that type of thing. Frustration tolerance is also a part of this game that you can definitely learn and practice. And what's really neat about Chutes and Ladders in most versions is when you land on a chute or a slide and you have to go back down, there is a reason. There is the representation through pictures or words of a bad choice, right? A bad choice, and now your consequence is you're going back. Great application for our kids with autism too about behaviors and how certain behaviors will have a consequence, a positive or a negative, and being able to talk about that as you're playing the game. Of course, we always want to keep it fun. I mean, it's a fun game. We don't want the child getting upset or having a meltdown. So even when we're discussing things, we keep the atmosphere light and we keep it playful. The same things are going to happen to you that happen to the child. So it gives you a good opportunity to role model your responses to the child. So definitely Chutes and Ladders. Pretty inexpensive game to buy too, which is kind of an extra bonus. Another game which is very similar to Chutes and Ladders in terms of the skills we're working on is Sorry. I have a lot of kids actually request to play this game. They seem to really enjoy it a lot. And it's great for all the things we just mentioned about Chutes and Ladders. There's so many opportunities for what you thought was going to happen to suddenly be changed. Another player can bump you back to your start. Another player can change places with you. So you could have been on your track, close to getting home, and then suddenly it all changes and you're back to start. That's really good for handling change. It's really good for handling the unexpected. And it's also really good for frustration tolerance. So those are all skills that can be practiced just by playing Sorry the normal way that it's supposed to be played. And again, everything that happens to the child like that's going to happen to you, the therapist, as you're playing this with a child, or the parent. So when that happens, then you get a chance to role model your response. You know, how are you handling that? What are you saying? You know, using your words, using your feelings, identifying them, and role modeling how you're resetting and dealing with the frustration. Okay, our third game is a different kind of game. Whoops, it's called Hoot Owl Hoot. This is one of my new favorite games that I've discovered in the last couple of years that I really like playing with kids. This is a cooperative game, which means that you and the child play this together, and you have to work together as a team. It's not competitive. So you and the child are working together to try to get all the owls home in their nest. And so you do have to talk, you have to communicate, you have to strategize. And again, you're on a team together. So that teamwork element is in here. There's nice communication elements in here to get the child talking and communicating with another person, working with another person to solve a task. And if you were playing this with maybe the child, their parents, and you, or a sibling, there's just nice group cooperation work here that you can do. Cooperative games are really nice that way. They give the child a chance to work with another person to complete a task, which is really good practice for our kids with autism. And our last game, another very popular, familiar game, the game of life. So this game is really interesting because I got the idea to start playing this with some of my older kids with autism, some of my teens and even young adults who were really looking at independent life skills and type decisions and situations. And this game is so good for that. Now, I will tell you that sometimes when I play life, I do modify the instructions a little bit. To play it in its original format, I think can sometimes be kind of complicated and kind of long. So sometimes I just leave out some of the rules and some of the guidelines, and we just go through the board game course and we do some of the more simple things like dealing with a career or college and your salary and buying a home and getting married. These are all great things that happen in the game. And then again, we can apply so many things in this game to real life and living independently, functioning independently, decisions that have to be made, things that have to be thought about. It's just got a lot of good skill opportunity in it, even for discussion, even just to get into some good conversations with our kids with ASD and explaining principles to them and explaining sort of life transitions and independent living skills. So I would recommend this, especially for the older kids and the young adults. Maybe not so much for younger kids, but I think definitely as kids get older, they're thinking about a lot of these things too, or they're going to start facing these situations. So this might be a nice, fun way to address those topics instead of just kind of setting them down and talking to them about it. we can do it through a game, which is more engaging, probably even also more relaxing and less anxiety producing. So those are 4 more examples of board games that we can use with children with ASD to help them work on some skill development. Again, the benefits are that it's a game. So we keep it playful, it's fun, it's ideally engaging. Some of the kids that we work with might even actually choose these games because they like to play them. And then we've got this just built-in opportunity to work on some skills and to have some good discussions about these different situations and these different skills. So if you haven't watched the first video, which is 3 board games for kids with autism, go check that one out too. And hopefully you can find some ways to use these board games in your work with kids with autism and get some good benefits out of them. If you have some other ideas, post them in the comments. If there's a great game that you play with kids with autism, a great board game, then share it and share how it works on some skill development, and we'll get a whole good list going. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the AutPlay Therapy YouTube channel. We really appreciate that. We're always trying to post new videos regularly that we think might be helpful, information that might be helpful to share. So take care, and we will see you next time. Bye.